there. A few books and magazines, a bottle of bourbon. Sometimes he used the excuse of some sort of an outdoors project to get out of the house and went there instead. Miranda was afraid to go look, to check up on him. That would make him mad. So she and her mother waited for Dix to come and fix things. That was what he did. That was what they, and many others, counted on him for. The gusts and slaps of wind were punctuated by cracks of thunder and flashes of lightning. The distance between light and sound shortened. Miranda counted the seconds. She got to 3, and then, thankfully, the interval began to lengthen again. There was a lull in the nerve-wracking noise. Miranda held her breath. A new sound began. A low moan at first. It rose into a violent crescendo of pops and tears, which ended with a shuddering crash that shook the ground beneath the house. This was followed by a vacuum of silence. The sounds of the storm filtered in again, much more distant, the gaps between thunder and lightning greater and greater as the chaos moved away. Miranda and her mother stared straight ahead and waited. Before long, there was the crunch of truck tires on gravel. They relaxed. Soon enough, they knew the door would open and the men would come in, stamping off the rain and discussing the next day's projects, which would now include cutting up the fallen tree or branch or whatever it was that had broken free. Her father would insist Dix stay for a cup of coffee. Dix would politely decline, saying he had to go over to some other house, some other project, some other problem. But his presence, however brief, would restore her father's mood. He was not fond of the company of women. They both counted the minutes. In fewer than expected, the door swung open, banging rudely against the wall. Stamp, stamp. 2 boots. No voices. Miranda stood. Dix strode into the room and met her eyes. "Call 911, he said. It seemed that Dix never left after that day. Of course he had, Miranda knew it, looking back over the year that followed her father's sudden and instant death as he'd stood, looking up, blinded by sheets of rain, deafened by thunder, into an ancient tree full of invisible interior decay that allowed a waterlogged branch to split from the trunk and fall onto his head. Dix had other clients, other homes that needed attending. He went home to shower, to eat. When the season came, he went hunting. But he found some reason to show up at least a few times a week. Mow the lawn, put equipment away for the fall, repair a stuck door, take down the window screens. Miranda frequently offered him coffee, as her father would have done. He always demurred. Then, once, he accepted. They sat at the kitchen table together and said nothing. There was no tension or discomfort in the silence. When his cup was empty, he stood, squeezed her shoulder, and let himself out. Miranda's mother's depression thickened into a cloak she pulled tighter and tighter around herself. Miranda found herself spending a large part of every day urging her mother to eat, to get outdoors, to call a friend. Eventually, she even had to urge her to brush her teeth, take a shower, get out of bed. Her mother resisted with almost unyielding stubbornness. Sometimes she sighed. She often wept. For several months after her husband's death, she'd rouse herself once in a while, take 2 hours to shower, dress, dry her hair, carefully apply lipstick, and drive off to replenish her stock of gin. That errand took her a while, sometimes hours. As she came back into the house one day, carrying a bag with 2 half-gallons of cheap gin instead of her usual top-shelf brand, Miranda asked her where she'd gone. Her mother had shrugged, grunted out the phrase, "For a drive." Miranda suspected she had started going several towns away, maybe as far as Plattsburgh, to buy booze. She probably didn't want anyone in town to know how much she drank. In spite of everything, she was still trying to keep up appearances. But as the snows came on in earnest and driving got hazardous, Miranda's mother dropped that pretense. The bag she carried into the house, bottles clinking against one another, bore the name of the nearest liquor store. Eventually, she didn't even bother going out at all. She began working her way through